Saturday, February 5th, 2022. And today, I will hopefully be talking with the audience of the show. Because this will be the 100th episode of the podcast. Just for anyone that's curious what that means exactly, because just of how things work, I am basing that on the podcast page statistics. So there have been a couple other streams before that I've had that didn't get recorded for various reasons. But just going on based on that website that we use, which is Podbean. This will be the 100th, so thank you all for being here and for supporting the podcast. And no matter how it is, because I've decided already I'm not even going to say anyone's names, to shout anyone out, basically, because anyone that has listened, anyone that has commented, anyone that has done anything to show support for this podcast, I appreciate that. So I thought today I would talk about basically the podcast in general and just paranormal in general, maybe a couple experiences here and there, and then whenever anyone wants to jump in, I've already put in the chat how that can be done. For anyone that's listening to this in the podcast or YouTube video, that won't be possible to do because that will be a recording. But if you're here live, again, I appreciate it, and I'll go from there. So, and of course, the podcast page, as I always say, is salsidoparanormal.podbean.com, and that's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com, and that's where you can find all the episodes and links to social media, ways to donate, and ways to contact me. And because I'm always looking for comments or questions or topic suggestions for episodes, and as well as stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or others that you trust. I'm always happy to share those on the show, whether you send them in a written format or you want to actually join me on the show at a later date or tonight, and share them with the audience here and have a discussion about them. So those are all options. And yes, I see you all there in the chat. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. So, but yeah, it's really it's pretty amazing that I'm already we're already here, because when I started this podcast, I had thought that I needed to have it edited all the time, and that was something that I didn't feel comfortable doing. So when I started out, I was basically I had to have people to edit it for me, and so because of that, I figured I would only put out one a month. I wasn't thrilled with that, but I was basically working within what I thought was possible, and so I put some of those out with the help of various people. As I've said, I'm not going to say any names tonight, because I don't want to leave anyone out. So I put some of those out, and then it just, for a number of reasons, it wasn't working. Partly because I wanted to do more, and so I was really, this part of the inspiration for this was listening to other shows and other live shows, and realizing that other shows have live streams and they don't always edit them. And once I realized that, that's when I started putting out an episode once a week. And then I realized, I could possibly be doing more. I think I could do more. started working on it, and went to 3 days a week. And eventually, on those 2 days when I wasn't working, excuse me, I started to feel strange about that. So I decided, you know what? I think I can actually do this 5 days a week. So that's what I tried to do when I started doing that, and I think I've only missed a handful of days as far as actually missing or canceling a stream for reasons other than family gatherings. So, and that's how we're here at 100. Again, I'm seeing all the chat. Thank you all. I appreciate it. And yeah, so that's how we got here. And it's just amazing to think that probably more than half of these episodes came out. I guess I probably could have checked on that, but I mean, this last, a lot of the episodes came out in the last few months, last maybe half a year. And yeah, so it's just really amazing to think about that. And a big part of it is just being inspired by other shows, other people that do their own shows. I guess I lied, because I'm going to mention a couple people in the process of doing this. But one of the shows that I really got into was Troubled Minds, and I loved the fact that there was a show every night, and that people were coming together in these shows to talk about all these strange things. And I wanted to do more of that in my own way. But I wanted to also bring up more stories from people about their experiences. So, but yeah, definitely, there have been a lot of shows that have inspired me, including Troubled Minds Radio, and Mike and everyone that has called into that show, Michael Strange and everyone that calls into that show. I love being a part of that community. Other shows I've mentioned before that inspired me were definitely would be Into the Fray Radio, Shannon LeGros. Just that whole interview style of a show. That's something I want to get into more when I can. And just other shows like Where Did the Road Go, because of just the way they're able to consider all the possibilities. I love that. I think that's really important. And so yeah, I've really been inspired, and I'm really happy to be part of the whole, I guess you'd call it, paranormal community, and sharing stories and letting people know that it's okay if these things really do exist, and if you've had experiences, it's okay to talk about them. It's okay to talk about them, and you shouldn't have to expect to be ridiculed or picked on when you do share these experiences. I think that's the other main reason why I started the show, is because I wanted to make this something that people will be more comfortable with sharing. And because I've had, as I've said in the show before, I've had several of my own experiences over the years, and not everyone always wants to hear about them. But I wanted to make a place where we could talk about all those things. So, and but yeah, so it's just been an amazing ride so far, and the podcast has been around now for just over a year and a couple months, and already working towards that 2-year mark this October. So But yeah, so it's been great. Just finding stories and sharing them with everyone, and then doing episodes on certain topics and having guests on to talk about these things too. And not just celebrities as in terms of popular culture celebrities, but people that are interested in all this as well, that aren't out there just for the sake of getting more popular, or getting more money or any of that. They're really out there to look into these topics, and so that's why I've had so many guests on, and they've all been friends that I made through talking with everyone online, mainly about the paranormal. And I've just the number of conversations I've had with people, both on the show and then off, just in other Discord servers, has just been amazing and really opened my mind up to a lot of other possibilities as to what ghosts could be in general, because that's just a word. There's no clear-cut way to. There's so many things that are seem ghostly or seem like they fit that category. But so yeah, it's been amazing. I found some stories about things I'd never heard of before, which is always interesting. And that's been fun sharing those. So I'm looking forward to doing this for as long as I can. And I'm glad to have you all here with me. So I did mention that I would talk about some of my more recent experiences that maybe I haven't talked about before. And one of them actually has to do with the when I started doing the show 5 nights a week. That first week, what was amazing about that week was that same week I started doing. I actually did an interview for another show, and that night, while I was talking with the host of the other show, another good show, it's called 6 Degrees of John Keel. And if you look in my Discord server, you join and look in the, let's see, I believe it's guest interviews channel. You'll find a link to the episode where I was on. But I was talking with the host, one of the hosts, and there came a loud bump or a knock on. I'm not sure if it was the counter but it was a solid bump, a solid knock. In the kitchen, which is right behind my computer. It has one of those kind of half-wall partitions, so you can look out of the kitchen into the rest of the living room, dining room area. And it was so loud that the host even heard it. And that was on that Tuesday, and I thought that was interesting, you know. So, but I mean, I hear knocks here every so often anyway, so it was interesting, but not that significant. Except for in that the host for the other show heard it. But then that same Thursday night, I was doing my first Thursday night show. And I was in the middle of recording, and I heard another knock, another bump. And I was sure both times that it wasn't my cat, because when she when she gets into the kitchen, you can hear her bumping into stuff and sometimes even knocking stuff over as she's getting in or out of there. And there was none of those sounds. But it was just so interesting that on the 2 nights that I added to my schedule, I got noises while I was recording. It was almost like someone or something was acknowledging that, hey, yeah, keep going with that. This is a good thing. But yeah, so I thought that was really amazing that happened. EVP, that's true. I never went back and I think I wanted to, but I don't remember ever going back and listening to the episode to see if it came through on the recording. Either of those episodes. I kind of don't like to listen to myself. Actually, that's not true. I really don't like to listen to myself. But yeah, so that was really interesting that happened. But so that was a little while back. That was when I first started. And thank you all. But yeah, it's I am slowly getting used to listening to myself. It's I guess maybe I will eventually get used to it. But yeah, so other thing I've noticed recently is that my blinds have been moving again. My vertical blinds in the I have this patio in the back of my place, and it's just it's just like a cement slab. So it has one of those sliding glass doors, and there are blinds in front of it. And sometimes, every once in a while, just one of the blinds will start to swing back and forth. And it's never I can never blame it on the heater or the air conditioning when it happens, because it's always it never happens right when the air is blowing onto those blinds. And when the air does blow onto those blinds, the good amount of them actually do move. But it's several of them. It's never just one of them. So I've noticed that recently, one of the blinds doing that again. And that's something that's happened here and there, on and off. So trying to think of what else here. But yeah, I don't know how that works, but it's really interesting. It's like someone or something is trying to get my attention just with that one blind, and nothing else ever happens. So I don't know what the message is, if there is one, or if it's just someone that for some reason has to move that blind. And it's not always the same blind either, it's different ones. That's another thing about that. It used to be the same one for a long time, for the first several years I moved in here, that I lived here. It was the same one, but then eventually it moved apparently to one at the end, and then the other day I saw one closer to the middle, but not quite the middle one that used to be the one that would move all the time. So it's yeah. Derek says you're not alone. They say the more you look into the phenomenon, the more it looks back. And yeah, I believe that. But well, and Derek says hopefully you're not a few months away from Cthulhu Dreams. I have recently finished reading that story, so you never know, I guess. But tell you what's funny is I had a dream, and some of you know this. I fell asleep. Speaking of troubled minds, I fell asleep listening to the show one night, and I had this dream, and it started off as a regular dream, I think, of being in a house that I used to live in. Used to be where my mom lived with my then stepdad, and I was hearing the show, but I couldn't figure out where I was hearing it from. But then that kind of faded, and then I found myself in the house where I had my first experience, and I was still hearing the show, Um, and and I was sitting in a chair, which is funny. I was sitting like in a rocking chair or a recliner or something similar, and I didn't recognize any of the furniture in the room. And there are people coming and going in front of me, out through this sliding glass door that led out into the back deck of the house. And no one seemed to notice me. But so they were coming and going for a little while, and but it was weird because I talked about this with a friend recently. Kind of dug into it more. They weren't wearing winter clothes. I don't feel like it was. I felt like it was an out of body experience, but it wasn't. Wherever I was, actually, I knew where I was. It was not this current time because the people. It was like I had come to the house in the middle of a party, but I didn't recognize the people there. And so anyway, people are coming and going, and then eventually that stops, and I'm hearing the show. There's like an entertainment center in front of me, and so got that. I'll finish telling the story here, APOC, and then we'll get to you there. We can talk about it more. And so eventually everyone stops coming and going, and I get up from the chair and I look outside. I open the door, which I don't know how I did that because I don't remember feeling anything. But I look outside, and there are. I first said it was fireworks because it was the only thing that I could think of. But it wasn't really like fireworks, but there were these different colored lights, like lines of light, short lines. Oh yeah, I don't mind. Okay. Just reading the chat here, but and they were coming down from the sky, and it was like the sky was full of these lights. And it didn't make any sense because it seemed like it was way too many lights for fireworks. And so I closed the door again, and I was standing in front of this entertainment center, and the show was ending as I was staying there trying to figure out what was going on. And I was tempted to explore the house because this is not the first time I've had a strange experience while sleeping with that house. But then I got this feeling like, no, I shouldn't leave that room. I don't know why, but I shouldn't leave this room that I'm in. So I instead was looking at the entertainment center, and I was thinking, I think that's when kind of like real life started to filter in, because I was thinking, oh, the show is done. I should probably see if I can turn this stuff off. But I was looking at it all, and it was technology. It was like a touch screen or like a smart TV kind of screen, and I couldn't figure out how to turn any of it off. And that's when things started to fade. And I woke up, and I realized, okay, that was more than just a regular dream. So, okay. Sounds good. But yeah, so that was and that was just recently. That was like a week ago. I'm terrible with time. I'm always so terrible with remembering what day things happened. And I always forget that I could actually take notes and write down these things after they happen. I just never think of it either. So, but it looks like we have a guest that wants to come on. So, Cal, if you want to unmute, you're welcome to. And you can share your story.
Hey, James, how are you?
Good. Thank you for being here and for volunteering to share.
Yeah, man, no worries. I'm not as good of a storyteller as you, but I'll give it a shot.
Oh, no problem. No, that's everyone's different, and you might be better than you think. So we'll see.
All right. Well, I'll give a little bit of background. When I was like 7 or 8, we moved into this house that was built in the 1920s. There was one right beside it that the same man's brother built. And then across the street from that, close to the railroad tracks, there was this much older house that was built on top of a Civil War bunker. So I don't have any stories about that house, but given my story in the house right across the street, maybe it has something to do with it. When I was a kid, I slept upstairs in an attic that was turned into a bedroom, and I always just had the worst feeling up there. I was just never really comfortable, and anytime I would go up or down the stairs, I would race up the stairs and go turn the light on so I wasn't there in the dark, or if I was going down the stairs, I'd run down the stairs. So some nights when I would just either, have a bad dream or kind of get really freaked out up there, I would come down to sleep on the couch. And I would lay on the couch and be looking towards the kitchen door, and it would look like the Three Stooges when they poke their three heads around the wall. It was like three little ghostly heads. I mean, it was dark down there. I don't know if it was just childhood imagination or what. So after that, I started sleeping looking the other direction. But when I got older, my mom and dad told me that the whole time I was, like, every night, it sounded like someone rolled a baseball down the stairs. To the point where my mom would get out of bed and go upstairs and look, and I would be asleep in my bed. And of course, they didn't tell me this as a kid. They told it to me later, and I'd never heard them talk about ghosts or paranormal or anything like that. So I don't really think they were just trying to scare me or anything. But then they said when my great grandmother passed away that it stopped. And I remember as I got a little older, I never had that uncomfortable feeling up there anymore. So
wow,
I don't know. Maybe she made a stop on her way to get rid of what was ever in the house or not, but
and that's possible.
Yeah, that's my story.
Yeah, that's interesting, and that's not the first time I've heard that in stories. Where there's activity, and then a loved one, sadly they pass, but then after that happens, there's less or even no activity in a place.
Yeah.
So that could be what it was. Yeah. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah. So you're welcome to stay if you want to keep talking, or you can meet up again. Either way. But
that's about all I have. My wife's about to get home, anyways.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no problem.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, great story. I'm glad to see that this concept is actually working so far, which is amazing. But yeah, just for anyone that doesn't know, I've never done a show like this before, where I had listeners kind of come in during the show and tell their story. So that was amazing. But yeah, that's really interesting. It seems like no matter what it is, no matter how it happens or how it plays out, whenever a lot of stories, one of the things that happens is the loved one, when they pass, things either calm down and they completely stop, or they increase for a time because it's the loved one, maybe possibly, letting the people there know that they're okay. And those are just two general ways that these things can play out. It's that every story is different, but yeah, very interesting. It's really funny. In my apartment, I've had a lot of things happen since I've been here, but for the most part, things have calmed down since I moved here. Like the first few years, there was a lot of activity. Not every day, but a lot more often than there is now. I always wonder about that. I've kind of had this idea I've wondered about now for some years. I always wonder if you move into a place that has, even just any place that has any kind of energy, does does the act of moving in stir things up, and then you'll get more activity for a while, and then it might calm down, because whoever is there gets used to you. I feel like that might be the case because I've said before I used to have, Cal says maybe they're deciding if they like you or not, and that's possible. I had basically a shadow figure, even though I never saw it when it would stay in the closet in the bedroom, which I used for storage. But it liked to stay in that closet, and I'd only sense it in the evening. Like once it started getting dark, I would start sensing it. But it never felt evil. It wasn't bad. It was almost like it needed a place to stay for during the night. And that was the place where it had been staying at for who knows how long, probably before I even got here. And it would just stay in there. It only came out a couple times ever, and that's when I saw it as like a shadow figure, a shadow mist kind of thing. And it was both times it was at night. It was while I was listening to paranormal themed shows, but I listen to those kind of shows almost every night, so I don't know that if that had anything to do with it or not. But so anyway, this figure or this presence would stayed in that room for years at night, and it got to the point where I would always say if I needed to go in there to put something away or get something, I would before I entered the room I would say out loud, hey, I'm just gonna get in here for a minute and do this, and then I'll be out. And I never felt anything bad, but it was really interesting. And then eventually, and this is just recently, within the last month or two, I noticed that when I did that, when I went to that room at night, I didn't feel that whoever that was there anymore. I didn't feel like I needed to say, hey, I'll just be in there for a minute, and then I'll be right out, because I don't feel like it's been there for a while. And I really wonder why. I'm hoping that maybe wherever they went, they're happier. But it's just really interesting. So that could be it. But yeah, so it's very possible. Very interesting story. I think I mentioned before I've had that. It's funny, I had that sense of a head poking around a corner without actually seeing the head. That's kind of the best way to describe that. And I can't remember if I told the story before on the show. I think I mentioned it in chat in different places. But for a time, my dad moved into this house in the town where I live, and it was a house that had been turned into 2 apartments. And he was moving his stuff in there, and this one day I volunteered to go and just sit in the apartment while he and others were going and getting things and bringing them back. And as I was sitting there alone, everyone else was gone getting things. I was sitting in the middle of this living room, and I sensed someone. I didn't see them, but I just sensed someone kind of just peek around the corner, just barely, and like they were looking at me, and it felt fine. I wasn't worried at all, but I just knew, oh, there's someone there, and they're just checking me out, see what I'm like and what I'm doing there, maybe. And they stayed there for a little while, and then they backed up, and I never sensed anything there again. In the time that my dad lived there, and the times that I went over there and visited here and there, never sensed anything again. So, it's really interesting. I really do wonder if the saying is true that there are spirits all around and different entities all around, and we just don't always notice them. We only notice them when they're either we're sensitive and or we just pick up on their energy and or they make themselves known. I think there are so many factors that go into why or what causes these experiences. I feel like it's just so much more complicated than any one or even maybe two things. Which is why it's so hard to explain it all away. At least without just dismissing it completely anyway. So, but yeah, I'm just trying to think of what else has happened here recently. Well, there's one thing that I've noticed, and it's only happened twice, and it's one of those things where I don't know how to explain it, but my cat, Logan, she either has this ability to astral project, or even crazier one in a way, is she has some way to like teleport. Because I don't remember the first time it happened very well, so I won't go into that so much, but the second time I was sitting on my bed and yeah, Logan, the familiar spirit, yeah. I was sitting on my bed and I had just been looking at her and she was sitting on the floor looking at me, and then she walked away back out of sight and into this little hallway that leads to the bathroom and bedroom, and then out of the apartment. And I was actually getting socks on to go somewhere, and but I was still looking in that direction as I was getting my socks on, and then like not even a minute later, a second later, I mean a few seconds later, I'm sure it was like just barely long at all, I heard one of the blinds move, and Logan walks out from behind the blinds, which were in the opposite direction of the direction that she had been heading in. I don't know how she did that. I don't know. Unless I was seeing a projection of her the first time, somehow, and then she walked out from behind the blinds the second time. I have no way to explain that. Matt says cats have 2 feet in both worlds. Yeah. It's really I saw something. I forget where I saw it online somewhere. Oh yeah. Derek. Yeah, if you want to jump in, go ahead. I know you're at work.
Hey, James.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Does it sound okay? I'm in the store,
Yeah,
so
it's great.
Right. It might be some like background radio noise and stuff. I got to be quick because my boss is coming in any second. But
yeah.
I don't have any stories and stuff really that, as you know. But I just want to say a big congratulations on 100 episodes. Felt like just yesterday you were announcing that in a few months you'd be launching your show on Halloween, and now look at you, 100 episodes later. Can't believe it.
It's
Crazy,
wild, but thank you so much. Yeah, no, it's wild. And yeah, I owe it a lot of you too.
Oh no, you're as someone who has a million ideas but doesn't have like the willpower to actually like make anything happen and actually like do anything. I really like admire your like the way you do it every day, and like your commitment, and like you manifest the stuff, and it shows, brother. You're really good right now. Like you're very comfortable on the air, and I can imagine what it's going to look like episode 200.
And that's going to be later on this year. That's not even that's.
Oh yeah,
watch
sure.
5-6 months, five and a half months.
Yeah, we're gonna plan something special, you know.
Yeah.
But to the astral cat thing.
Yeah.
I got a quick comic synchronicity for you, or a comic reference for you.
Okay.
It's probably like 2 years old now at this point. It's called Strayed, and I'll read the solicitation for it. Most cats have 9 lives, but the fates of billions rest on this feline. In the far future, a military-industrial complex reigns over all humanity and actively destroys distant alien worlds. The galaxy's only hope can be found through an unlikely pair, an astral-projecting cat named Lou and his loving owner Kiara. Trading 9 lives for the well-being of billions, their revolt is a battle for love, friendship, compassion, and the soul of humanity. So that whole book is about like astral-projecting cats that are like fighting off galactic threats and stuff. It's pretty
Wow.
crazy. Yeah. There's all kinds of stories about like how cats they like Matt said, they can see on the other side, like they're the cat eye thing, like that they can peer like through the veil and see stuff on the other side, and how the Egyptians like worshipped the cat in that way, that it was almost like some kind of astral warrior, you know. And
Yeah.
showed out Rivers and stuff, but Rivers always talks about her cats doing battle with all kinds of stuff on the ethereal plane, and she'll have a few good stories for you if you ever get around to getting her on your show somehow.
Yeah. This is another good friend of the show, and
Yeah.
and also has some amazing stories of experiences, and yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for calling in, so to speak.
Yeah, no problem. You're going, but can't wait to see where the podcast goes, and really proud of you, brother.
Well, thank you so much.
Later. I'll try to
Yeah,
I'm
take
trying to
care.
find the mute button here. 1 second. Sorry.
No problem. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. It's and also just to let everyone know, and I've mentioned it before on other shows here, Derek will be on with me on Wednesday. We're going to cover a couple of events in the X-Men comics history that have really heavy paranormal influences. And it's just really interesting to cover the whole intersection of the paranormal with oh cool. The Derek just shared the image here of that comic he was talking about. The paranormal with the popular culture and all that, and yeah, thank you, yeah. But it's really amazing, and yeah, I mean, I know it before. I've talked about how the one time my Logan actually defended me from something else. I saw in a dream, basically, 2 identical versions of Logan sitting on my bed in my living room, just glaring each other down. And I knew one was her and one was not her. One was something else, and it wasn't good. And I knew she was protecting me because I was laying physically in that bed. And when I woke up, not long after that, she was looking at me. This was when she was a kitten. But she was looking at me, like, making sure I was okay. And so I totally believe that whole astral warrior thing. Let's see, Cam says, my wife saw this shadow figure at her bedroom door this one time. Gave her a really uneasy feeling. And our cat, at the time, started hissing and charged at it. She said it went away after that. See, yes. Secondhand story, but yeah, no, that's amazing, because I believe that. Like I said. So there's something to cats. And ghost cats even, and all that. It's really funny because I grew up with cats around me. And my family had cats. Actually, both parents at different times had cats. And I've just always been drawn to them more than... I mean, I don't have any problem with any other animals, but I've always been drawn to cats, so... And I can definitely be cat-like in my own ways at times. Not so much in the quickness, but in the wanting to be just relaxed and comfortable all the time and just do what I want to do and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, great stuff. Great stuff here. But yeah, I was thinking about the other day, and if we keep on doing this five days a week, yeah, we'll get to 200 by the summer, sometime in the middle of the summer. So, yeah, James the cat. Yep. Yeah, So yeah, it's really amazing. Great stuff there as always from Derek. I do hope that someday he is able to put together a show because it would be amazing. His own show. I hope we get to see that someday. So, but yeah. So it's cats are something else. I still don't know how she did that one day. I mean, I think it's really funny. I mean, when you have to choose between, okay, how did the cat do this? Astral projection or teleportation? Which seems more likely? So, and yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. Mike has it right here in the chat. Derek, the pro podcaster without a podcast. Now that is a conspiracy. Yes. Yep. Calls into so many other great shows, not even counting mine, and does guest appearances on those shows for entire shows, and there's so many great ideas. It needs to happen someday, there, Derek. Yeah, just somehow you gotta get that show going. You already got a YouTube channel. Just gotta get that show going. But anyway, I know I don't like to bug too much because I debated back and forth for a while. Do I really want to do a podcast? Can I do it? And eventually, I just said, "Well, you know what? I will give it a try." But yeah. So let's see here. I'm just looking at the chat, but yeah. So stuff. Yeah. Whenever APOC, whenever you're ready, you're welcome to join here. So I'm good now. Just had to get through those stories. But, amazing to see so many people here. Really appreciate it. There you go. Hello. Oh, let me see here. I see you're unmuted. So that's good. But I don't hear anything. But so yeah, I'll just keep talking here for now. But, I don't know if there's technical issues on your end there, APOC, or not. But let me see here. Yeah, it could be. Let's put on speaker, maybe, possibly. Okay. So, but yeah, it's been really interesting figuring out how to do the show technically, but also just what the show should be about, and besides just okay, yeah, no problem. APOC's gonna get out and then get in again. It's been a learning experience. I mean, above all else, it's been a learning experience. Just trying to figure out what works for me and what doesn't, both technical wise and subject matter wise. Because one thing I really want to do with the show is let everyone know that the paranormal is not all bad. You know, it's not like like you see in Hollywood most of the time, at least a lot of the time. And you know, not every experience is bad. So, and that's the main reason for doing this show. But so I wanted to do that. There we go. Yes, I do hear you.
Cool. Okay.
Thank you for joining.
Oh, you're welcome. I had to grab the little one, take her outside real quick, so it took me a little bit longer.
No problem.
I figured I would talk about the little creature instead of the other stuff, and that way we can save the other stuff for later. But
sure, yeah, no problem.
So since you were talking earlier about, all this different stuff that could be there, we don't know. So I was having a conversation with my mom in the living room of our house when I was a teenager. And this little man or person with a round head that was only about maybe a foot and a little bit over a foot, maybe, was walking across the floor, and it was all white and a little transparent, and it went walking in between us and just went into the couch. It looked up at me because it noticed that I saw it, I think.
Wow.
Went into the couch, and I looked at her, and I looked, at the couch. I said, "Did you see that?" She said, "What?" And I said, "Darn it." But then years and years later, I had a friend who we started talking about that kind of stuff, and she said, "Wait a minute." She said, "I used to play with these things out in the woods." And I said, "Okay, you go over there and you draw yours, and I'll stay here, I'll draw mine, and we'll compare our drawings." She came back and it was identical.
Wow.
And so that was a little validating. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, Derek here in the chat has a question real quick.
Huh?
Was it wearing anything?
No, I mean, I couldn't. So it was like it was like all white, and I couldn't see fingers, I couldn't see toes. It was just the shape of a humanoid person without any real detail, but with this big round, just circular head on top. And I've seen those kind of characters in like Japanese and anime stuff that are quite similar. But that's really the only other place I've seen it, except my friend who apparently saw the same thing. Used to play with them out in her backyard when she was a kid. So
That's interesting. If it's out in the woods, I mean, it makes you wonder if that's some kind of a nature spirit or something.
Maybe I have absolutely no idea. All I know is that it was fascinating. It was like this little thing walked through the But I did live on a small acreage with my mom, so we were kind of in the woods, but still on the edge of town. So, yeah, that's it. Oh my gosh!
Oh, wow.
Only the head was more round and it had arms. But yes, very very nondescript. Yeah, that's it. That's it right there. Night Stalker.
Wow.
Creepy. They look
That
They look a lot more creepy in that than it actually did walking across the floor. It was kind of jovial feeling when it walked through the house.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, that is something. It's amazing how many different things, different sightings, different kinds of appearances all of this has. And yet there are similarities among so many sightings, but it's just really wild. It's how do you know what's what?
Yeah, I don't think you do.
Yeah.
We can just theorize and project and attempt to make sure that it wasn't like a hallucination or something that we made up by attempting to get a little bit of validation or understanding other people's experiences, maybe.
Wow. Derek says, and I'm probably going to butcher this pronunciation here, Kodama or Forest Sprites, according to Google.
And Princess Mononoke, did have those in there, Matt.
Yeah, wow. Interesting. That's an interesting story. It's funny how when you think back, it's like, oh wait, I had that, and I had this, and I had that. I forgot about that, and then just.
That's what I've been going through lately as we've communicated, James. I keep remembering stuff that I completely forgot. I hadn't even thought about that stuff in years, and when you talk about it, it's like you start remembering this other stuff that came up. So it is
okay. And
interesting.
apparently we owe that picture that was shown in the chat here to Rivers. So that's but yeah, that's amazing. That's really interesting. In a way, I mean, forest spirits, of course, that's similar to any kind of fae or fairy. I mean, that's a whole other version of that too.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'll get out of here, but I just thought, since I probably wasn't going to share the other ones, that I could at least share that one. That's it's a pretty interesting one, and I just did notice that they do have arms in the picture. The only real difference between those and what I saw was it didn't have eyes. It had a round head, and its belly wasn't poofy. It just had like a normal body structure. Yeah, but that's almost exactly what I saw. Yeah, pretty interesting. Well, I'm gonna get out, but congratulations! Yay, show 100. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. And we'll be hearing from APOC again at some point. Another show.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to that. So thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. I mean, I'll be in chat.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. But yeah, that's really interesting. I don't think I've ever seen anything little like that. The only thing that I ever saw that was really like a white color was that thing that floated around my aunt and uncle's house. It had that giant cat's claw in the middle of it that floated through past us, past my cousin and I, and then into the dining room, and then floated literally through the dining room table and chairs, and out through the wall, out into the backyard. And still don't know what that was, but yeah, I've never seen anything really little. But that's really interesting. Let me see here. So yeah, just looking here at the chat. Tiny humanoid creature one time. Wow, huge feet. Yeah, white cat's claw goes. Yeah, that was really interesting. Okay, so a Puckwudgie. Oh, okay, that's why I thought it was. Yeah, Derek is saying this old boss saw something like that. Oh, okay, I didn't see that. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Matt. If you want to join, that's fine. So, but yeah.
Okay.
So, oh, there we go. Hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh yeah, congratulations, man. Good job on 100
Thank you.
episodes. I'm digging the show. I like it, so thank you for that.
No problem.
I'm really glad that you're doing this kind of show because, for me personally, and you guys might all know, my story. I'll retell it, but just the fact that being a kid and having to see this stuff, like not understanding, and then not being able to talk about it with people, holding it in is like a big thing of mine that we should be able to talk about this stuff and not be ridiculed. And so when I was a kid and I told I saw ghosts at my friend's house, and I told somebody. I told a person in school, and you know how kids are. They're mean. So when next recess, everybody knew, and everybody was like making fun of me and calling me names and being mean to me. Back then, it wasn't. It was like taboo, a topic, And so I held it in. I didn't want to tell my ghost stories because I didn't want people to like ridicule me or hold it against me or be mean to me. And that was I think it was bad. Like, it's not healthy,
Right.
And so it wasn't until more when I was an adult that I kind of came out of my shell, And but I started learning about it. I started researching it, and that's what really got me into like understanding it more. And I think it's important that we talk about it and we research it and we throw our ideas and our stories out there. Because if not, who is, So there's someone out there right now that's had an experience and they're holding it in because they don't want to say anything. Because they're afraid of ridicule. So it's up to now to people like us and you doing the show and everybody that's doing these kind of podcasts to be able to have someone to talk to about it and help. You're actually helping people, like therapy.
Yeah, that was the main reason. That was really the main reason I wanted. I mean, there were two reasons. That was the main reason. Other was just, of course, I'm interested in this. But yeah, it shouldn't be. People shouldn't feel bad about sharing these experiences with others. It's definitely, for sure. I agree with that completely. So yeah, happy to help when I can.
So yeah, man, thank you for doing that. That's all I wanted to really get on here and say. Thank you for listening to me and listening to other people and doing it, because we're like soldiers, kind of like warriors. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, we gotta spread the word and make it so that that's more normal to talk about all this. So
yeah,
definitely.
All right. So thank you, James. Congratulations. I'm gonna go.
Thank you. No problem. Yep. Good to talk to you. Yeah. So I'm just reading back on the chat here. Is there anything? Cal says, is there anything that resembles a witch mixed with a spider? I don't know. I haven't heard of that before. Derek says La Llorona. I don't know. I haven't heard about that directly, but Missouri Monster. Okay, I don't know. Yeah. Cal says, I saw it when I was very young, come in my window at night. We moved out of that house when I was 4 years old, but it made such an impression on me. I still remember it. Oh yeah, when strange stuff happens, especially when you're a kid, I think it can stick with you. That's for sure. So yeah, just looking at more of the chat here. Geronimo, according to Google, apparently, Derek says. Yes. Great calls, everyone tonight. I'm just really glad that to be able to do this. This is all just, and that's what I'm so happy to be able to do this show. This is all being done just through the internet, just online. I don't have any. I'm not paying for any kind of a phone line. This is, but this is amazing that we can still do this. So, but yeah. So great topics. That's what I mean. There's so much out there, and APOC mentions mythology. I think there's. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the mythology around the world, talking about different entities of all different shapes and sizes, if there's not some kind of truth to it somewhere. So yeah, it's just really interesting. Let's see here. There we go. Mike found something here I can read. A Geronimo is a type of yokai, a creature, ghost or goblin of Japanese folklore. It can shapeshift into a beautiful woman. So the kanji that represents its I'm losing my spot. Its actual meanings are, and that has the symbols. Woman spider. Okay, interesting. They have so that's really interesting. Let's see. Okay. We got another person that wants to call in here. Someone named Mike. I don't know who this guy is, but he's welcome to join me here.
James, what's up? Can you hear me? Test 1, 2.
I can hear you. Thank you for joining.
Right on. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for hosting such a fantastic spot here. Lots of great stories so far, and congratulations on number 100, and to many more, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, I look forward to doing this, but with all of you as well. You know, being here, it's not definitely not just me. I didn't do this all myself. You know, so.
It takes a village, they say. It takes a village. Yes. Yeah, interesting, too. Some of these stories we're hearing, like APOC's story of those forest sprites, there are some other interesting tidbits of, like, folklore in different areas, like, what's that one place where, alien-wise, Phil Schneider, I can't remember the name of the place. It'll come to me in a second. But they say that around that area, again, completely unrelated to the alien story. It's just notable that it's the same spot, basically, where they say all this weird stuff went down. But they say in town and outside of the area there, they see these little sprites. These little, they're basically... like you would describe in the old days as gnomes or something, right? And they're always like in the periphery, like watching curiously at people that kind of come by. And there's no, as far as I'm aware, there's no name for them, like that people call them. It's just like they're always kind of watching, and then when you notice them, they scurry away as fast as possible, sort of like a wild animal might. Yeah, Dulce, that's it. Yeah, near Dulce, New Mexico. Yeah, so that's the spot. But it is interesting. In some of these areas, they have these sorts of things that they say are what could they be? These forest sprites of sorts. I mean, that's in the desert more like, but it's weird. And then you start thinking in terms of maybe like elementals or those sorts of nature spirits, right? Like, are we seeing what we think we're seeing? Are they physical things, or are they something else entirely? Like that type of stuff blows my mind, that it could be out there like watching us constantly, whatever this is, whatever these things are. And again, like we've always talked about on Troubled Minds and on your show here, is like that the definitions are sloppy. So what does that even mean? Are these ghosts? Like, I guess they could be, couldn't they?
Yeah, and I mean, there's stories of little figures of different kinds all over the world. You know, I mean, and different figures too, but just smaller figures. There's stories of these things, you know, different versions of them. I mean, not just like over in Europe, but here. I mean, the U.S. And yeah, it's it really is wild that when you. That's what I mean. It's amazing to me how many different things different entities you can find out about when you look into all this.
Yeah, and it goes wild. Like Derek here in the chat says, I like to believe that fairies, elves, sprites, elementals, etc. are all different and have intense rivalries. And maybe they do. Maybe they do. Would definitely make for good stories. But yeah, I mean, it is bizarre. You can trace all this stuff, like you said, back to all these different mythologies from forever ago. So it does make you wonder. It gave me the creeps, that APOC story where her friend actually was like, oh yeah, I played with them in the forest. I'm like, no, what? Like, what is going on with that?
Yeah. There's different shows I've listened to before where they always say it. Just don't go in the forest alone. Just don't ever go in the forest alone. Just don't do it, because you never know what's out there. Whether it's, you know, people that are not necessarily always, you know, so good or worse. Any of these different beings out there that you'd have no idea what they want to do or what they can do.
Yeah, and then don't get me started on the missing 411 stuff where people just vanish.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Don't you know, James, don't get me going, because I'll never shut up.
Well, that's, you know, there is no limit for tonight's show here. We can go as long as we want to. That sounds familiar, like from another show I listened to.
All right.
Here and there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I don't know, like some of these stories, like I said, and as you're describing it, it is, it's nice to hear people kind of let it out, you know, like Matt was saying, it becomes one of those bottle it up situations where you kind of, well, you know, like you feel weird to say these things, you know, and me in particular, like many people, I haven't seen a ton of stuff like this. There's some, you know, just kind of one-off stories here or there that may even be normal like I confused myself sort of stuff, but even so, like that doesn't mean that this stuff doesn't exist. And clearly there's a larger conversation to be had there, not just with that in particular, but with hearing what people have to say and the things they've seen. I mean, geez, some of the calls that we get on here, doing it here tonight, but also on the other show we do a lot, man, like some of that stuff will give you the chills, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's, I always say, yeah, there's a chance that, a person here or there could be making it up or exaggerating or, mistaken. But we can't all be doing that. I just highly doubt that we're all, wrong about all this. Completely, There has to be something to it.
Always something to it. And so, again, the conversation is in exactly what. And I don't know about answers, but I definitely think the questions bring us closer to that, as you know. Great stuff as always, James. Keep on trucking, man. If you need help for any of this, you know where to find me. I appreciate you very much, and thanks for inspiring myself and the rest of us as well.
Oh no, thank you, and yeah, no, happy to be around all of you, and all the different shows, and looking forward to. Speaking of that, being with you on your show on Monday.
Which we will be doing.
Yes,
we will be doing that. And
we got to do research for that one. That's the plan for tomorrow.
Yeah, no problem. No sweat. Monday, James on Troubled Minds. Appreciate it, man.
Yep.
Muting up. I'll be here listening. I'm not going anywhere. Thanks for taking my call, man.
No problem. Yeah, thank you for being here. But so it's. I really just enjoy talking with people about this. Even beyond trying to find answers, if there are, whatever there are out there, or not. I mean, just talking with people and comparing notes on all this. It never gets old for me. It really doesn't. One of the things that one of the reasons I wanted to do this tonight, partly is because of all the conversations I've had over in another server, in the Troubled Minds Discord server, in the voice chat there. A lot of times after the show, you'll find a handful or more, sometimes up to 10 or more people just in there talking. And it's not always about all the strange stuff. I mean, there's one thing that always seems to come up when we talk is food. But, because, it's food. How can you go wrong with food? But yeah, so it's just, I can go on doing this hours if I could. But yeah, so just happy to be doing this. I'm looking forward to things to come in the podcast, having more and more guests, both returning and new guests, and just looking into this more, and also that I'm really glad that Derek recently suggested the book review, because even though I was nervous for that one, it was a lot of fun to look into some stories and talk about the connections to the paranormal, to what happens and to people's experiences. And so, yeah, that was a lot of fun. I'm glad that I've kind of found things that I can do a couple times a week besides just the stories that I find online. I love doing those as well. That's the bulk of the show that I want to make sure I always keep up with that and keep up with sharing everyone's stories. But I think these dives into topics and then into literature can also be just as interesting and provide more ideas as to what all this could be, just based on what others have written, whether it's in fiction or nonfiction. But especially, I think, in fiction, getting back to the idea that there is something or maybe multiple somethings or beings out there that somehow send people ideas, whether it's in their dreams or not, just in any different number of ways that people then use to make, different forms of art, whether it's writing or pictures, painting, visual arts, or music. There are times when I'm working on something, one of my own stories here and there, which I don't do as much as I used to because I love doing this now more than anything else. I still like to write here and there, and there are times when I'm writing when it doesn't feel like it's me. It feels like I'm just watching a movie in my mind. I'm listening, and I don't know how that works or where that comes from, but it does happen. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I look forward to doing those every Thursday from now on, unless a guest needs to appear on a Thursday, and doing the Friday episodes. The nice thing about the paranormal that I'm finding is it's pretty hard to ever run out of topics to look into, because you can always look into different topics in different ways. And I mean, you can never really cover a total topic that you can cover in a 1 hour show or 30-minute 1 hour show. Derek says, have you ever written any fiction that had any synchronicities with it after you wrote it? Not that I've noticed. I did. What is kind of funny is my novel, The Red Lake Entity, that I talked about a little while back. The main character in that, the little girl in that story, Hope, her name was Hope in that story, she was somewhat inspired by the spirit that was here when I first moved here, of a young girl that basically through a number of dreams told me pretty much how she had passed. And if you want to go back, you can find that story. Look up, maybe use keywords "my apartment" or something like that in the podcast page, but or in the titles. But yeah, that character was somewhat inspired by that girl. But yeah, Derek says maybe that's why I don't see her that much anymore. Let her loose into the pages. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely something that was on my mind as I was getting that going. It's not, it's a sci-fi story as well, so it doesn't follow. Like, I wasn't trying to do a written version of what I had been told, but it's definitely just part of the inspiration. Just because this spirit was always never made me afraid, but was very determined, but also playful in her own way. The first time that basically she made herself known here by sitting on my couch bed and leaning against the side of my leg. But I never felt anything bad from her, and so she was determined, and she was playful, and she just wanted to get her story out. And then once she did that, she was gone. She wasn't, as far as I can tell, she wasn't doing anything to manipulate me or in any kind of bad way. And so this character in the story has similar personality in that it's very determined, very still a kid in a way, even though in the story I made it so that this spirit of this girl had been a spirit for a long time, so there was this kind of mix of old and young in kind of in her personality. But yeah, so that's only, but not that I've noticed. But see, I've slowed down in writing just because once I realized I could do a podcast, and then once I figured I could start doing that every day. I've really come to love that. There's always something to do for this podcast, and most of the time I am happy with that. I have no problem with that at all. So I don't write nearly as much as I used to. And thank you all. I see all your kind words in the chat here, and I appreciate it. But and that's an interesting thing too that Derek brings up is he mentions the other line that I didn't see at first, like Grant Morrison meeting John Constantine after he created him. It's really, it gets into the whole other topic. Yeah, Mike is it right? Writing is hard, especially when you want to do a good job at it. That's when it's like, if you just want to write whatever, you can. Anyone can do that. But if you're trying to make something decent, that's that. And then also, I know this is true for other people. I am definitely my own worst critic in a lot of ways. So, but the idea of, I guess, thought forms and tulpas and egregores and all that, just the idea that people can make things with their thoughts and their energy. And oddly enough, and I was talking about this the other day, how there are some sites where the history of a place, the actual history as far as what people have been able to find, does not match up with the ghost stories that are told about the spirits that are in a place. But you still have activity in these places. There and on a regular basis, because so that people are going to these places. Like I'm thinking of right now pretty much are and now I've lost the name of the place. But anyway, the Winchester Mystery House is one. Myrtle's Plantation. There we go. And this is just based on what I've read online. I don't know for sure if the history doesn't match up, but even just looking into the research for this, or the history for these places online, you get conflicting accounts. The one thing that does seem to be true for these places is there is activity there. There are paranormal events that happen there. So it's just really, it makes you wonder what, how things work. So, but yeah, it's writing is an interesting thing. The creative process is really interesting, because I think a lot of the time it is us, making things. But then sometimes certain ideas just pop in, and it's like, this works. This is what this is supposed to be. And so I find that really interesting. And wow, look at all the people in the chat here. I really appreciate it. But yeah, I haven't been writing as much, but the idea of that is just really interesting. So yeah, I don't know really where to go for that from there for sure, but just looking at the chat here again. So looks like I'm all caught up as of now. And yeah, anyone that wants to join me can use all caps, and then yeah. So, and Derek says, and then combine the inspiration thing with the tulpa thing. Did the idea manifest itself? And that's possible. Someone non-physical planting the seed, and then the author creating it to make it real. Well, there's another story, and I forget the author's name. I remember hearing about it. This character, I believe it was in novels first, but eventually it came to comics, which is the Shadow. This figure from, I don't remember what years now. This is a good ways back. Apparently, the creator of that character would see that character in their house sometimes as they were working on those stories. And that's just really interesting. Luckily I have not had that happen yet. So, but it is odd. There's definitely something to just consciousness and the energy and what exactly makes, you know, these beings that people apparently make sentient. You know what? It's just really okay. I'm just looking at the chat here. So apparently there are different figures in fiction of this spider, this woman spider, which is really interesting because, and now that I think about it, one of the games I play also has something like that in it. Diablo 3. I forget that character's name now. That is creepy. One of the bosses in Diablo 3. Not one of the act bosses, but one of the bosses. I guess mini bosses. But yeah, it's really interesting, and that's the other thing too. I mean, how much of this energy that creators put out does that also apply in video games? Getting into that whole digital realm of entities being out there online or in electricity and in the wires. I've said this before. I've told this story before a couple of times, different places. Not sure if I've told it here or not. But I had this one night where I was here in my apartment, and I had just I was getting ready to lay down and go to bed, and I started getting this feeling like I needed to turn off my computer and my router, my internet connection, basically. I had to turn all that off because something bad was coming, and it was coming through that either the wires or the internet somehow. And I had to turn my stuff off, or it was going to show up in my apartment. And I got this feeling, and I thought, really? You know, I don't know how that's possible. I don't know if I must be imagining things. You know, and I mean, but the thing is, this feeling kept on coming. It would not go away. And so eventually I decided, okay, you know what, this is more than just a random thought, you know, a random idea maybe for a story or whatever. And so I did. I turned off the computer. I actually unplugged the internet router, whatever you call it. I forget now, modem. Listen to me being all technical. And I just went to bed that night, and I fell asleep, and I tried really hard to just stay asleep because I felt like there was something that was not happy that had been stopped. And it was not in my apartment, but it was like around or nearby, and there was something that was not happy that I had basically denied it access the way it wanted to come here. And next morning I woke up just fine, and everything was fine. I plugged everything back in. Everything was fine. And so yeah, it's just really odd. Yeah. Matt says lots of video games have a Spider Queen boss. Interesting. Let's see here. Just looking here for. I lost my spot. Okay. Derek says that story makes the metaverse that much scarier. Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole other thing. I don't know how I feel about that, because again, if you look at that from a paranormal angle, what that I don't even like thinking about. I mean, hopefully it's not all bad stuff that's out there that is on it, but you know, I don't know. I do like to think there's good and bad entities out there, and but yeah, still, you don't want to be. You don't need to have the bad stuff. Just going through all the stuff online. So, but yeah, APOC, definitely listening is good. That time It was definitely like when I have one thought and I have it one time. A lot of times I'll brush that off, chalk that up to just okay. That was just a thought I had. It's fine, I'll everything seems okay otherwise, and so I'll let it go, But when I have that thought and it will not go away, and that's kind of true with. That's an interesting thing I hadn't thought of. That's true with experiences like that one, like the one I just described. But it's also true with my projects that I make. If I have a thought for a project and it doesn't go away, then I find it's just better if I go with it. And not all these thoughts end up being making anything all the time, but it feels better to sometimes just go with it than to really fight against it. So, but yeah, really interesting how that works. So, just looking at the chat here, I think we're good. It doesn't look like anyone else. If anyone else wants to jump in and chat, you're welcome to. If not, I think we'll be ending this in a little bit. But yeah, so it's really it's been great talking to everyone here tonight. I was honestly I was nervous. I didn't know if this was going to work or not. So I really appreciate you all being here. And of course I appreciate everyone that has ever listened to the podcast and helped in any way. Again, there's just too many to really count or to describe what everyone has done. Yeah, I think we're going to call it here. But the good thing is now that I know that we can do this, I think this would be fun to do every so often. A listener, kind of a listener participation kind of show here and there. I don't know. Maybe we could even work it in so that every other Friday we could do this. Do a topic, and then the next Friday do a call-in episode, so to speak. That would that would actually make it a little bit easier on me in a way, research-wise. So, but yeah, I think that would be fun. So yeah, I think we'll try doing that. Maybe from starting. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, maybe we'll do it on a Monday or Wednesday. We could do Mondays. We could do Monday call-in shows. Then we could do that every week. So, but yeah, I think that'll be it. Thank you all again for being here, and I appreciate everyone for all of your help in making the show and participating, and it's been an amazing experience. So, yes, yeah, 100. We made it. So thank you all. Take care and have a good night. And I will talk to you all on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal.